It still should be.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's a kid's.
Good morning. Can you hear me? Welcome to our Environmental Justice Forum. Thank you for coming out. And I am very grateful, as you may be, that we have a very nice sunshine environment today, reminding us of how much we love living here in Akron. So just to get started, here's our panel of candidates. Can you hear me? We need to turn it up. Okay. So we'll just go through some housekeeping details. The restroom is to the right out that door, straight down the hall to the right, and down that little hall. The sign looks like it's downstairs, it is not. And candidates, we have a moderator after our little introduction. And Beth, is there anything you want to add to this? Okay, so we are grateful to the candidates. Thank you for choosing to run. Thank you for your leadership in that and for making a commitment to listen to us. The next step will be that you not only hear it, you take action. And remember, we will keep after you in a good way because we want to support the changes in Akron. So thank you. Thank you to the Environmental Justice Coalition. If you have an armband on, wave your hand. We are a group of citizens who are committed to community, environmental justice, and our common prosperity. want to thank our hosts, Tony Tropey and Mustard Seed Market. That would be Phil Neighbors. Both are true neighbors and champions of sustainability in vision and practice. They have, with their families over decades, directly invested local dollars in our community and culture, economy, and environment through their local business endeavors. We thank them. We also thank you. Go ahead. We also recognize the building that you're in, former synagogue, now a cultural center, which is typical of the kind of development that puts place and culture at the heart of development and repurposes places. The greenest building is the one that's there, but the soul of the city is in the building. And so we thank Tony for saving our souls. I'm going to start this with a video.
Launched the Green Heart Project to obtain clear and direct evidence of the relationship between nature and health.
We're looking at it very critically as a great opportunity to restore health.
We are looking at the environment in a much more rigorous way than it's ever been done, and we're using trees essentially as a pill.
Yes. Okay, let's move the roof a little bit.
Yeah, I am one with the earth.
This is actually a major milestone. This is the first day we actually get to start the greening intervention, the planting of the community to begin to test the health effects.
This is a $15 million 6-year longitudinal clinical trial. It's unprecedented. There is no other project like this in the world.
No one has planted trees the size we're planting out here along the highway in the quantities and the densities that we're planting anywhere in Louisville's history.
You look at all the benefits of living near greenness. One of the most profound benefits is in cardiovascular disease.
There are thousands of cities around the world that are struggling with air pollution issues. And we know that cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer of people globally. We're looking at air quality, the mechanism the canopy plays in filtering air pollution, and therefore the health effects on the population and the community that lives here.
If you don't see the relationship between plants and clean air, then you just haven't got it.
When we first started the Green Heart Project, we thought it was important for improving the health of the community. Now, with this COVID pandemic, we've learned how spending time in nature could improve our resilience, our immunity, our mental health, and our ability to cope with this pandemic.
We know that we can't have healthy communities at any level within any socioeconomic branch without having healthy communities at all socioeconomic branches. We have such disparity in our community. We have one of the most segregated cities. Our country is segregated. Our world is segregated. Rich, poor, black, white. And then this pandemic comes. And now we see how connected we are.
If we learn the lesson from this pandemic, that it is not just our own health and our own little world that we can create an island to exist on, but that we need to work towards making a healthy community where people don't die prematurely. These things are not difficult to achieve. They're really like grass. We just need the social will to accomplish that.
How would it feel to a community that feels left out and unseen all of a sudden to be prioritized? I cannot imagine the difference in life expectancy in that community. And I don't mean years, I mean quality. And if you improve the quality, then the quantity will go up too.
I would hope that there will be another Green Heart Project somewhere else in the world. I would be 3 or 4 more to give everybody, policymakers, the general public, a confidence that this is actually a very real, investable, workable phenomenon.
So that's what's possible. That's what's actually been going on in bits and pieces in Akron, but it has been going on for the last couple decades. And we want more of it. That's who we are in this room. So I want to just take one moment for all of us. If you, in your mind's eye, turn towards the south, turn towards the south, and I want to go through, understand the visions and the decisions that votes have cast in the past, and the budgets that have been made, and what has been created. Okay. So when you face to the south, you're looking at our newest addition to the neighborhood, and that would be House 330. Everybody know what that is? We celebrate the LeBron Family Foundation for the achievement of the whole system approach to serving the needs of the next generation. But let us own the fact that is the taking Herculean effort on their part to reverse the systemic or generational disinvestments in public schools and neighborhoods where LeBron grew up. We're standing or sitting here, West Hill. Back 100 years ago, the owners and executives and cultural leaders of Akron's prosperous industrial 20th century built homes and lives in this location of Akron, where they had a tree canopy. And that gave them cleaner air, water, and land where their factories were built, than where their factories were built. And the prevailing winds blessed them. When you go further south, past House 330, you end up looking at the Summit Lake and Interbelt area and the erasing of neighborhoods and cultures of a once thriving African-American community through redlining and urban renewal. Where organizations like Let's Grow Akron have been building local community food systems for decades to begin to repair the losses of families' backyards, tree canopies, and food gardens. And the collaboration of Summit Metro Parks, all helping to rewild a decimated urban environment that continues to suffer the worst from low housing and property values. Turn to the east. At the bottom of the hill, you have Cascade Valley, ground zero for the $1.4 billion investment in clean water that Akronites and ratepayers now own. That's us. We stand on the high place of the Continental Divide, water flowing north to the Cuyahoga River watershed to Lake Erie, and south from Akron through the Tuscarawas to the Ohio River. When you face this way, you face north to the place where the river flows through the birthplace of Summit Metro Parks and the Cuyahoga Valley National Park, where millions of people visit annually, infusing tens of millions into our local economy through the gateway to Akron and to the national park. It goes both ways. It is where a bronze statue of a Native American reminds us of an ancient people who saw 7 generations ahead to come and were in the Merriman Valley. The national park is home to some of the most dangerous, or the Merriman Valley, the gateway, is home to some of the most dangerous housing, mangled 100-year-old zoning codes that are stifling the community's health and welfare. In 1922, and again in 2013, Akron built a water treatment facility for public health and safety. That exists in the valley. Turn left again to the west, and you have Highland Square, where the Porch Rocker Zero Waste event is the embodiment of culture and community and environment. So, thank you, all of us, for this brief swirl. Akron has done a lot over the years to address issues related to mitigating the impacts of warming climate. Those efforts include signing the International Kyoto Protocol on Climate Change, developing the Akron Green Print and Renewable Energy Facility, adoption of the Integrated Plan, and the $1.4 billion investments in the Akron Waterways Renewed Program to address violations of the Clean Water Act. Those efforts have resulted in Akron's state-of-the-art water reclamation facility and positioned Akron once again as a leader in clean water and the green jobs economy. The pace of climate change calls for our governance and management strategies to integrate adaptation and resilience methodologies at an even greater pace than previously understood if we are to achieve a 50% reduction in emissions by 2030 and net zero by 2050. Over the course of the last 3 years, Akronites have come forward collectively the human and environmental assets of our region to ensure the health, safety, and welfare of Akron. So, in a minute, we're going to start with questions. 62% in the survey stated they favored environmental sustainability over economic value as the focus of new housing development in the city. The majority of Akronites, 80%, want to stay here. Akron has clearly said they want visionary leadership and reform. So, moderator, that we are come out now. Our moderator is Tracy Person, head of the Black organizing group with Planned Parenthood. She is a grassroots neighborhood level organizer for years, working with those who are directly impacted. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Yeah, I'm that man. So, thank you all for coming this morning, and we're just going to go ahead, because of time, get started. We are going to start with an introduction of each candidate, and as you introduce yourself, what ward you are running, and as an icebreaker, what does environment mean to you? And for each candidate, you'll have 1 minute to answer. So please make sure that you are attending to the timekeepers in the front. And of course, we will try to go through all the predetermined questions as possible. And we're trying to leave a half hour at the end so that any questions that the audience may have, we can attend to those as well. So if you in the audience do have any questions, please lift your card up and we will have someone to collect them. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to start over at the end there with Kim Blake. Again, if you could just introduce yourself, what word, and again, what does environment mean to you?
Good morning, everybody. I come from a black church. Good morning, everybody. I like when people talk back to me. Amen. Amen. That's all. When I'm talking, you can talk back to me. My name is Will Blake. I'm running for Ward 4 here in Akron, Ohio, this lovely, lovely city that I love with all my heart. And what environment means to me is cleaner air and cleaner energy and bringing the community together through our natural resources.
Hey everybody, my name is Fran Wilson. I'm a 27-year-old fourth generation Akronite. I'm a neighborhood organizer. Welcome to West Hill. This is also my neighborhood. I've organized alongside Justice for Jalen protesters against Save White Pond development and the Ladue fracking. We have been endorsed by the Summit County Black elected officials, the Working Families Party, Run for Something, Ohio Representative Tavia Golonsky, and 30 other small businesses and local organizers. Environment to me means that everybody gets to live, work, and play with the same quality and livelihood and voraciousness of our natural resources. But I want to say right now to end that we need young people at the table now more than ever, and we need people who actually give a damn about Akronites. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Cynthia Blake, and I'm running for city council at large. I happen to live in the 3rd ward. I work with a lot of organizations. I advocate in a lot of organizations. And what environment means to me is recycling materials, saving species, making things equitable, saving the vulnerable resources, protecting our water, lead-based paint programs, species, and getting special people who are qualified to give us advice on what direction we need to do in our city. Did that bring me not to talk?
No, you got it very
Okay, I'm sorry. I want to comply to the rules. I'm sorry. I yield my time.
Good morning, I'm James Hardy. I was born and raised just about 6 blocks from here on Aqueduct Street, so it's good to be back in the neighborhood. I'm also privileged to be running for the open Ward 8 seat with my neighbor Sage, and really excited to be with you today. Environment to me means health. That's the frame I try and bring to everything that I do, is the social determinants of health. My educational background is in public health, and as we saw in the video, there's so many health and well-being benefits to a healthy natural environment, access to nature for all, not just for those of us that have the blessing of being close to the metro parks or close to the national park, but for all. And over the course of my career, I tried to increase access to nature and do those kinds of things. So thank you.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
My name is Minister Byron Finney, and I just want to let everybody know that God is good, is worthy to be praised. I am associate pastor at Second Baptist Church in Akron, Ohio. I am running for city council at large as a Republican. I've been from Akron all my life, went to John R. Booker High School, Griffs. We just won that state championship to the city. Also a proud graduate of Alabama State University, where I groomed and came back to Akron to serve my community. What does the environment look like to me? The environment of Akron means preserving our historical city, whether it's the houses, fresh drinking water, lots and lots of green space, places where we can grow, cultivate the land, all these empty spaces, maybe getting kids, cultivating garden, doing different things like that, and just educating our youth about some of the beautiful things that we have in our historical rubber city of Akron, Ohio. Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Nancy Holland. I am the incumbent Ward 1 City Council representative, and welcome to the neighborhood. Many of you are longtime friends and neighbors. I'd like to begin by thanking the many friends who were involved in putting this event together this morning. It takes a village, and the caring that goes into sponsoring and hosting such an event, and not just doing it today, but having done it for many years. And I also know that the same group of people will continue this effort for many years to come. And to me, that's what environment is about, that we are looking at the many things mentioned by my smart colleagues this morning. We're looking at our right to prosper, to be well, to live, work, and play in a place that is safe and that encourages well-being and good health. But we are not just looking at the now. We are looking certainly at the decisions that we're making today. And we are living with decisions that were made long ago. But perhaps for me, most significantly, we're looking at the decisions and their impact 7 generations from now. My background is as a civil rights lawyer, and the other piece of environment for me is about the right to everyone, for everyone, to enjoy a safe and healthy way of living. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Sage Lewis. I'm running for Ward 8 City Council. I am the person that had upwards of 75 tents in his backyard in Middlebury sheltering homeless people for 2 years. If I put another tent in my yard now, I go to jail. One tent will send me to jail. This picture here was taken yesterday by my wife. She drives down Frank Boulevard every day to work, and this was taken yesterday morning. These are 3 deer who have had their environment clear cut by the city of Akron. All right, these 3 deer remind me of 3 homeless friends. One, Tony, or I'm sorry, I'll start with Ricky. Ricky was left stranded when the city came and swept his camp, and they left him alone because he did not have an addiction or a mental health issue. They just left him in the street. Another one of these deer remind me of my friend Aubrey, who right now is 7 months pregnant, hiding in the woods, terrified somebody is going to find her. And the last is Tony. He is a veteran, homeless. This is injustice.
Good morning, everyone. Morning. My name is Judy Oak, the other candidate for Ward 1 Council. I'd like to say first that I'm very grateful that this event is being held in Ward 1 in the neighborhood I grew up in. It's a beautiful building. I've passed by it many times. I'm very glad that I get to be inside it today. I'd like to say that environment to me is 3 big things. Growing up in this neighborhood, environment has been my childhood. I've been there countless times. I know the Big Bend Metro Park like the back of my hand. It's also brotherhood, where I ran with my fellow cross-country teammates. We ran there twice a week, over and over and over again. And it was so beautiful being able to run there instead of on a really hot track. And finally, the environment is our future. How can we expect to run a city if we do not provide that childhood and that brotherhood and that beautiful area to our children, just like it was provided to me? Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Linda Mobian, and I have been your public servant for many years now, serving on your school board and now serving as your at-large city councilwoman. And I am running for re-election to Akron City Council. I thank you so very much for having me, and I thank you so very much for the sessions that I have attended that you have put on, because I have learned more and more and more about the environment. But I don't forget the fact that I was born and raised in Pascagoula, Mississippi, on the beautiful Gulf Coast. So I can tell you, to me, environment means beautiful water, fresh air, people living together. And I didn't realize how fresh the air was until people weren't allowed to smoke in the same room with me. And then you breathe in fresh air and an environment that everybody can benefit from. Our children, our senior citizens, and all. Thank you so very much for having me.
Good morning. My name is Russ Neal, and I'm blessed to be the public servant for Ward 4. I've been able to serve for 14 years, but I've been serving my community for over 30. And because I'm in Ward 4, environment is holistic. If you know anything about Ward 4, that's the birthplace of Project Ujima. We function on the principles of the Nguzo Saba. The first one is unity. The next one is self-determination, and Ujima, collective work and responsibility. So environment for me, again, is holistic. Specific to Ward 4, it's the quality of the housing, it's the quality of the neighborhood, it's the quality of the schools, and all of those things keep me focused. I'm thankful for the Gaines Group and other groups that have educated me to the other parts of the environment. But more specific to my ward, it is those things that are immediately impact the families that live in my ward.
How you doing? Excuse me. My name is Johnny Osby, entrepreneur of 21 years and best-selling author. What environments means to me is the law and environment. You must have a relationship with nature. You must respect nature, and nature will respect us. It's also the 3 treasures in life, which is clean air, pure water, and whole foods, which keep us healthy. So that's what environment is. It's everything. So thank you.
Thank you, David.
science. And Ken knows me, if you can just keep that mic, we're gonna start this direction and go down the table. So while some view environmental and social justice as opposing ends, many studies show the correlation between poor environmental conditions in neighborhoods and elevated violence and higher health disparities. How will you support the integration of essential environmental protective measures such as drinking water, source protection, and tree canopies into Akron's neighborhoods equitably, especially those neighborhoods most vulnerable and economically underdeserved? How will neighbors be involved in that process? Now, that is a long question, so if, as we go down the line, you need me to repeat it, I will.
I think one of the things I've also thought about was community gardens. We have a lot of vacant lots. If we're not gonna build houses or refurbish houses on those vacant lots, if we have a community garden on those vacant lots, some of those underdeserved communities would have beautiful gardens, and it would also help with the food deserts as well, because we can also give out those foods to people in the community and also employ people in the community to maintain those gardens. And also replant our fruit trees, because when I grew up, we had a lot of fruit trees growing up. We never went hungry. We'd stay out all day and eat peaches, mulberries, raspberries, and things of that nature. And it's so liberating as a kid to climb a tree and pick your own fruits and eat them on the way home. So yeah, that's what I would do. Thank you.
Ditto brought back memories of the fruit trees. Giving the community ownership of the community. As a councilman, I worked with the WOON, I see Beth, and she was a part of that work. And we created a program that is actually the foundation of the mayor's youth violence task force. It's called Wraparound Support, Community Wraparound Support. It's taking that proverb, it takes a village, and actually actualizing it. And with that, giving the first contract with the city was with Kings and Queens. They were able to take care of the vacant lots within their own community. We didn't bring outside contractors, we just ran over the lots and left them with grass and whatever litter was there. They were given ownership. So to address this issue, if you give the community ownership and then empower them with the resources, that makes a difference. And then definitely planting trees, because it's well known that trees help reduce violence.
One of the things I have done since I've been on city council is trying to change the culture of the council. And that means including voices that we don't normally hear from. And that would mean for me, including individuals who know more about the environment than I do and than the people downtown. And a lot of things we have done is replacing trees as we take down trees. But I was noticing they were putting big trees in. I don't think we put that large of a tree in. But again, I think it's critically important that we include environmental issues and feeding people and planting gardens and all of those things that we have done in the city of Akron.
Often you go through an inner city neighborhood and you're not always thinking about the environment. It seems like there are 1,000,001 priorities in front of the people who live in the inner city, other than whether or not their tree is planted in front of their home. However, I know how big of an impact having a park in my neighborhood had on my childhood, has had on my life. And so I believe in what Mr. Osby said in putting a park in every empty lot, a garden on every corner. I think that would be a massive step towards people investing in their communities, wanting to invest in their homes and invest in their own gardens. And together we can create a greener Akron by helping give them what they need. Thank you.
There's only one thing we can do. We have to get 7 votes in city council. Right now, the people and the environment have about 5 votes. That means we're shut out. The money has 7 votes. And the money is myopic and short-sighted and backwards thinking. They are clear-cutting our environment for just little nickel and dime pointlessness to out-of-town developers. We have to organize, we have to unite, we have to get 7 votes in city council, and you all know who they are. You know who the money people are and who the people are. And we have to organize. We've got to get people excited about local politics. We got to get this environment, this community enthused, because we have 100,000 less people than in 1960. Why are we clear-cutting land and leaving deer homeless? It's madness.
Look, there was a time in my lifetime when I was a little tiny girl living over here in Morningside Drive, when Akron was running 3 industrial shifts, okay? The air was thick with the acrid smell of rubber manufacturing. And very few people had the time or the interest to be deeply involved in the decisions around development and how we would build a city. Those days are gone. And there are 5 of us currently on city council who over and over again have stood up for that truth. Now what my friend and neighbor here just said is true. I stood up against giving unbridled control of ARPA funds to the mayor. I stood up against White Pond. I stood up against a budget that was rushed and that did not allow citizen participation and voices to be heard. And I will keep doing it.
I want to piggyback on what Mr. Osby said about the green spaces, and I would also take it a step further. I'm the president of West Akron Kiwanis, and we have a relationship with the Umis community on North Hill and some in Akron Public Schools, where we're teaching the students how to grow foods in the garden. I would get with the seniors in each community and see if they could man those gardens and keep an eye on things, because the kids, they have to be held accountable for actually cultivating the foods and everything that goes along with the garden. Then I would reach out to the Summit County Land Bank and see if they can donate those empty land spaces so that the kids and the seniors can cultivate those gardens. And then I would make that a community project, which keeps ownership in the community with those individuals.
When I was at City Hall and led the creation of the Office of Integrated Development and was its first deputy mayor, we centered environmental concerns within our first 5-year plan. The folks now are kind of getting away from that, but it's there. And there's 3 things that we did that I want to lift up. One is we commissioned the first tree canopy study in the last 10 years. And that canopy study showed that we are losing our canopy at an alarming rate. And if we don't do something to at least maintain what we have, we're going to have horrific outcomes, including heat islands, which we already have. The second was we commissioned a conservation easement study from the Western Reserve Land Conservancy that showed that we could permanently conserve 18,000 acres of the city of Akron watershed lands and raise almost $50 million in revenue that we could bring to the city. And lastly, shout out to Bridget Embrisco. We co-collaborated on creating the Akron Parks Collaborative and the Akron Parks Challenge, the city's, I think, one of the most successful participatory budgeting programs we have at the city. Thank you.
Okay. Again, I just give you a little bit more background. I come from one of the neighborhoods where I see a lot of closings, businesses closing, schools closing. My grandmother's house, which used to be on Orlando Court, was a part of the Interbelt project. So how my Sundays got disrupted to not have dinner over there, and you see all of this space. But I would try to definitely tap out to your organization for advice on how we can preserve and protect. I would try to protect the rain, use things of the rain, and then truly make partnerships instead of fluff talk, like with the school system and with the your organization on how we could look at waste and how we could save money with the waste. The school system has a lot of trash every day. How can we preserve or use it, for plants and gardens and urban gardens and those types of things?
So when we talk about equity, I think about who's at the table. When we have deals like the Ladue fracking deal, and when we look at the White Pond development, how that went down, we see over and over and over and over again that neighbors are being cut out of the table, not able to give a voice. And we're cutting out our experts as well. We need scientists, environmentalists, people who are on the ground at the table as well. Backroom deals are not okay. At all. And we need to stop putting profit over people and profit over the value of the land. We need stronger ethics codes, and we need to work harder to bring more people to the table by broadening public comment and public hearings. Thank you.
What equity and environmental justice looks like to me is putting our money where our mouth is and helping our local organizations put more into research and development and creating good processes and procedures. You know, we just praised LeBron on House 330. We just watched a video on planting trees, and people like Mr. Beast have team trees where they're planting trees all throughout the country, but we can't leave it up to athletes and YouTubers to try and make environmental change and social change in our cities. We need to put power back in the hands of the people. And with that, I also want to add that we have to continue to work together. I echo my sentiments from my friend. Backroom deals ain't cool. So let's work together and make change.
Thank you, candidates. So I'm going to start with, let's start with this middle table and go this way. So Akron has the worst eviction rate in the state and had the 24th worst eviction rate before the pandemic. With care dollars gone and rents skyrocketing, local experts predict for the situation to get far worse. Local experts have repeatedly said that being able to, for residents to be able to seal eviction records would improve the houseless crisis. And actually, City Council would need to do. So would you pass legislation so that people can seal their evictions after 3+ years?
Thank you for the question. Right now, we live in a city where the landlord registry is kept in a loose leaf binder, paper sheets in a binder in a dusty office. We do not keep any kind of records about landlord compliance, and the inspection and enforcement mechanism is scattershot at best, and I think I'm being generous when I put it that way. There are a couple of us who have been working very hard on creating a whole host of housing reforms that will be both legislative and policy driven, and this must happen. It is unbelievably unfair that a prospective landlord can look you up and make a decision about you based on your credit history and on the fact that you may have been sued for a bogus reason to be evicted from your prior home, whether or not that effort was successful or not, but you can't look that landlord up. This needs to change, and we need answers from the judiciary, and we need to make these changes now. Thank you.
These 3 deer are eating at my soul. I mean, they break my heart, and they are a symbol of all the people we have left stranded on the streets of Akron. You don't have the highest eviction rate in Ohio just by random luck. It's because we don't care. We don't care about the people, we don't care about the land, we don't care about the animals, and it is fundamental as part of who we are as the leadership in this city. We need radical change. I truly believe we are in a death spiral in this city. I'm not kidding. I am seeing disease and cancer eating at the soul of our city when I'm working with the homeless population, and now we're doing it to our animals. They are picking the meat off of this carcass, and they will leave us stranded with nothing and just go off to another town and do it to somebody else.
Having one of the highest eviction rates in the country is not a great look for Akron, is it? But if we want to change that, there's a couple of things we got to stop doing that are backwards. We are out there developing environmental land when maybe we should be developing our inner cities and those empty lots. We're not really incentivizing home ownership as much as we are incentivizing tax rebates for building on that environmental land, are we? Another backwards thing would be using American Rescue Plans to hand out grants to all of our friends. I believe some of us here at this table have received those grants. So why don't we use that money towards rescuing people, actually rescuing people from evictions, than just rescuing all the people who helped us become mayor. Thank you.
You know, as we continue to work and as I continue to work to make Akron work for people again, we talk about the housing options, we talk about the facilities that people are living in, and we have these absentee landlords coming in from out of state, purchasing facilities, not maintaining them, and we have no way of doing the inspections regularly because we don't have enough inspectors. And people are living in unsanitary conditions, and it's terrible. One of the things we have been talking about is finding a way to find money, and the money is there. I mean, we can get ARPA dollars to do this, to start with providing legal representation to those individuals that are facing evictions, because we're finding that when you have a lawyer to go to court with you, chances are you get to stay in your homes. And then we can find who the real culprit is. And it's usually the apartment owners, the landlords, who are not doing what they need to do, and people are forced to pay these high rent fees. So we have to do better to serve these individuals who are facing eviction.
Well, first I want to speak to something that my colleagues said. A lot of good comments have been made. On council, we should not have to find money. And I know that's something she meant. It should be in the budget. The budget is a value statement. So if we should put this in the budget, we should be intentional. But this is the other thing. Folks, we're under a consent decree that made when we set our water bills, we set them on the median rate. Folks that work for the city told us the median, we already knew that half of our residents could not afford the water bill. That was pushed on the landlord. What we need to do, residents can get assistance with heat and with gas, but not with water, because we push it on the landlord. We should put the water bill in the tenant's name, still hold the property owner, the landlord responsible, but then that way we can see if they can't afford the water bill, we can assist them with some of these other programs. We have to change our policies and procedures.
When I think about this situation, I think about the law of environment because naturally, the nuclear family has been displaced, man, woman, and child. So with that being said, 90% of homeless and runaways are from single-parent homes. So economically, the nuclear family structure has been destroyed. So we need to have that in place because 90% of homeless and runaways are from single-parent homes. And then we need to put a number on what is affordable housing. I hear that, but I don't know what that number is. So therefore, they have a number to work with so we can have budgeting and financial literacy talks about how they can get better with their budgeting or if they need another job and things of that nature. So yes, thank you.
So I believe part of the question was, are we in favor of having evictions sealed after 3 years? Okay, so I do want to address that. So there is no law in Ohio that actually gives tenants the rights to have their eviction sealed. But you can have stuff fall off your credit after 7 years. So I'm absolutely in favor of having evictions sealed. after a certain amount of time. Another thing I want to talk about is in California, they've instituted laws like AB 1842 that actually implement some form of rent control. We cannot have rent skyrocket to $1,200, $1,500 a month. This is not New York City, y'all. We cannot have those type of prices for 1 or 2 bedroom apartments, because if you work a minimum wage job, 40 hours a week, 95% of counties in the US you can barely afford that and cannot afford a 2 bedroom apartment. I yield my time.
So yes, on the question about ceiling, I also think we need rent caps in some areas. When we look at the economic stuff that's going on in Summit Lake right now, lots of folks are being evicted from generational homes. We need to look at what developers are doing in Summit Lake right now. Rental assistance, and then somebody talked about also bolstering housing inspections. We have been doing these council sessions and sitting down and analyzing what's going on with the housing crisis, and we need mandatory inspections and to bolster our housing inspections unit. But also, when I look at things like Tice Woods and White Pond, I can't help but think about the fact that we are giving millions of dollars in tax abatements to wealthy out-of-state developers. And we need to restructure the tax abatement to help everyday Akronites. Thank you.
Yeah, I would say yes to the ceiling as well. And we do need to do more to preserve our historical housing, and one thing, our aging housing, and to make more programs for senior citizens for repairs. But as far as I do agree with him about the tax abatement, and you might want to beat me up, but some of the tax abatement, it does work. It works to try to bring back the community. But we might need to look at tax abatement reform to give to people who have been here, who have stayed here, that are in their current home, trying to think of some type of ways. Because what I'm seeing is our conditions aren't changing, but an investor conditions changes, because we have to give them some type of incentive to come here to build. But we're looking at the fact that how does it really help us? How does it benefit us on trying to preserve it? We have to come up with innovative ways, and we have to work together down there at City Council.
Very much in favor of ceiling evictions. But as Will said, that will likely also need to have some state law changes as well for us to do that. I want to give a shout out to my incumbent colleagues who voted when I was at City Hall for source of income protections and for fair advertising and anti-discrimination. We were before Cleveland in doing that. But there's 2 things that I would just add to all the wonderful things that have been said. One is private equity, as Councilwoman Mograine said, is buying up all of the available homes in cash and turning them into high-end rentals. We should be taxing those out-of-state private equity holders. We can set fees, we can do that now and raise revenue for the city that can be put into housing inspection. And the last thing is we need to build permanently affordable housing units in the city. And that's going to take incentives. Summit County has a housing trust fund that has been established. The city isn't a participant. We should be a participant in making sure it just costs too much for people to come in. There's going to need to be some public subsidy. It needs to go to public or permanently affordable housing.
As a landlord and as a real estate agent, I see it from both sides. I have tenants right now that's 2, 3, 4 months behind on rent. As a landlord, I have to have compassion being a man of God. I can't put somebody out in the middle of winter with their family. On the other side of it, when it comes to these investors, they're calling me from California, Florida, and they know that the housing market, they can get a house in Akron. They can get 10 houses in Akron for the price they get out in California. So they buy the houses and then they just skyrocket the rent. So we have to come up with a rent cap for these investors and for the people in Akron that's going up on their rent. We got landlords that's going up $500, $600 and they haven't made any improvements since 1980. People are dealing with the same appliances, same roofs caving in, and different things like that. And then just educating our people so that they know and help them get affordable housing.
Thank you. And Kenny, if any of you will hold on, we're gonna start with you, and then we're gonna go this way. Okay? All right, so with climate change, food scarcity is likely to become a more pressing issue, even in Akron. How can Akron meet the need, and what are some other ways to ensure food security as we face climate change? How will you remedy past policies that allow the proliferation of businesses like Family Dollar instead of grocery stores and markets and food deserts?
So I think that goes back to what we were saying about cultivating some of these empty lots and using some of our green spaces to grow our own food locally, teaching our kids how to cultivate that land, get with our seniors, finding them, making and holding the kids accountable and holding themselves accountable and holding the community accountable for developing and cultivating those land, and then we can grow our own food. And then in 5, 10, 15 years, we can build some type of generational subsidy for those neighborhoods. Maybe the kids can put up little stand, sell the fruits, get money, allocate those funds, improve the playground areas and do different things like that. So just growing your own food locally is the number one thing.
So being involved in the Bowery Project when I was at the city, I was involved in 22 pitches to grocery stores to come downtown. 22, and we were turned down 22 times. The grocery business, I will just not ever understand. The city's subsidizing 2 grocery stores right now, and for community-driven purposes. That's something we should continue to think about, where the city can step in, where there is a food desert. But I agree with my colleague here, and that is we need to be thinking completely differently about our food systems. I'm not an expert. I would be leaning on those that are to think about that. But this is a problem not just in Akron, but in places like Akron, all across the country. Our food system is broken, and relying on the corner grocery store is not going to cut it anymore because the business isn't going that direction. We need new ideas.
I would, one thing that I miss is the engagement of doing Saturday morning shop where we used to go run and do fresh vegetables. I would like to see more urban gardens. I would like to see where a vegetable truck could come into my community that is pretty much a food desert, that it could come into my community and promote healthy foods. And we need to put more money probably into some type of program that would have to be held or something with vegetables and, again, the rainwater. But I think that one of the things I could probably do or try to push would be the urban gardening. And then we need to utilize a partnership that we already have and get some more advice from your organization that would probably be an authority on that could give us some guidance. But I would definitely push for urban gardens and vegetable trucks. I enjoy those days when they have down there at Summit Lake on Tuesday, where we're supporting local farmers. If we have more of that in our community, I would support that.
Thank you. As somebody who has faced food insecurity in the past, living out of a food pantry for several years, this is personally very important to me. I think the access to fresh food looks very, very different in different neighborhoods in Akron. We have swamps and we have deserts, depending on where you are. And I think, when we look about public subsidized food grocery stores, we need to expand that. But ultimately, I think we need a food systems plan, an actual plan that articulates where we're going to source local food, how we are going to get fresh produce to folks, local food to local folks. And we need a comprehensive plan for that. Thank you.
When we think about food deserts, that is where 1/3 of a population lives more than a mile from a grocery store. So what that looks like for me is, for instance, in the West Akron community of Ward 4, there's one grocery store. There's just one. It's Save-A-Lot on Cobb. So when I think about getting people closer to the food that they need, that means putting in the system mandates to have less food scarcity in these neighborhoods. Also, if Walmart can figure out logistics on how to get everything they need throughout their network, we can do the same thing here in Akron, Ohio, and put together a logistics system that gets food to the people that they need, do it efficiently, and do it quickly. I yield my time.
What I think about, I would simply, Akron have a lot of great land that's not used. I live in Ward 4 in the White Pine area, so I moved there because of the wilderness. Now, if we to tear down those and to replace those with apartments, why couldn't we put a garden there? We could have easily put a garden there, and then across the street from it, we have on Mull Avenue, there's nothing but land that could have went another garden. And that possibly could have fed probably all of Akron, to be honest. So I think the community gardens is where we need to go in the replanting of the fruit trees, because I mean, no one would go hungry. I mean, there would be abundance of food, and then just make preserves in the fall and give out the preserves, cooking contests, family dinners at local community centers from the community gardens and from the plant trees that we place. Thank you.
One of the first things is the city definitely has to look at its policies. We had 2 grocery stores, one shared by Ward 4 and Ward 3. But when you put 4 dollar stores less than 2 miles from dollar stores, they killed Henry's Akron. So we have to look at our policies. No other communities would you have put 4 dollar stores that close. That's one thing. 2, we have to create a network of the services that are out there. There are a lot of food banks within, a lot of churches run food pantries. And then most of our schools are 100% free lunch, and they send groceries home. We have to network that and make sure that families are taking advantage of that. And I like the idea of the farmers market, of course, building on the community gardens so that there's food there. We just have to collaborate and network those resources that are already out there, but we definitely have to watch our policies so that we don't overpopulate the communities with dollar stores, which kill not just grocery stores, but other small businesses as well.
Yeah, dollar stores that are not well maintained. And most of them, they should be closed. One of the things that we did extremely well, I think, is when a lot became available next to your home, the people that live next door were able to purchase it. I think something like $5 or something square foot. And many of those have turned into community gardens. And they have shared those resources after they get harvest the crops with residents in the neighborhoods. But I certainly like the idea of the food trucks, because I can remember when I was growing up, we used to have banana trucks and fresh vegetables driving through our neighborhoods, and we would purchase fresh, produce that way. Again, we do need to have other grocery stores within certain neighborhoods. We know that. And we have to figure out a way so that all neighborhoods are well served.
If these 3 deer can't eat. I'm kidding, I love to say it. When we think about climate change and how it affects food security, right in my ward, right there on the corner of Portage and Mustard Seed, we have a perfect example of who's doing the right thing. Mustard Seed sources local ingredients from sustainable farms that improve our community and brings food to our community. That's important. That helps climate change and that helps food security. We need more like that. And when I think about other wards, I think of Dave's Supermarket over on Exchange, which serves a poorer community. That supermarket is a staple of that community, and it brings food to everyone there. So we need a duality here of Dave's, which is not a super big corporation, but it does improve our communities. And also Mustard Seed, which is higher class, yes, but it's also helping climate change. If we get duality of those two, that'd be huge.
All right, I wanted you to hear some of these stats from the Summit County Food Bank. In 2022, they distributed 10 million pounds of food. That equated to 8.3 million meals. And that was 2.1 million pounds of fresh, nutritious produce that was delivered for free. I have been a food bank partner when I was the executive director of the homeless charity. We need more of that in Ward 8. I've been on my bicycle going door to door since January, and I'm going to do that until May 2nd. There are low-income people. There are disabled people. We have some food pantries in Ward 8. We need more. And when that new development becomes low income down at White Pond and AMHA, and all the poor rich people leave, which is inevitably what's going to happen, we're going to need food pantries down there too, and I'll help and set them up.
Okay, so 3 months ago, a dollar store tried to move into the then recently vacated CVS on Portage Trail. I blocked it. How? We actually have a policy against this, okay? Doing your homework matters. This location was less than 2,000 feet from another dollar store, okay? So we don't have to invent new stuff. We just have to do our footwork, right? And use what we have. But let's get to the heart of the matter. We're not talking about really grocery stores here. We're talking about big business and small business. And what we have failed to do, both city level and county level, over and over and over again, is to put our money literally where our mouths are. We have done nothing to support and organize local growers and local ag. Raise your hand if you are part of local growing and local ag. Let's see it, raise them high. Okay, what we're talking about here is small business support. Full stop. There is a way where there's a will, and I'll help you do it.
I'm going to answer, or I ask like maybe 2 more because I want to give time for the audience to have their questions. So, and we're going to start with Councilman Neal, and then we're going to go around this way. So, we've heard it said that across Akron, trust is at an all-time low between citizens and the city. Akron citizens consistently ask for voice, but the bulk of the work influencing our city is done by a handful of mayoral appointees. Public comment at city council comes after the votes are made. So how do you propose to increase citizen engagement in government decision-making? Will all of you commit to changing the public comment period at city council meetings so you hear from the citizens before you take a vote on legislation?
Well, to answer your question, yes, I would like to see for issues that are being voted on, for those issues to be commented on before, have the citizens have the opportunity to comment on those before we vote on them, and then still have the public comment period after. So I would split that. I've always been for citizen engagement. If you found this whole thing about the budget, I've been pushing for our budget to be online for over 5-6 years. We actually passed the legislation to put our budget online, but the administration has never moved and council has never funded it. And this is the thing, folks. For us to put to use a participatory budget process using the software program called Balancing Act, they were willing to come and implement and institute that program for free. Give us a trial to be able to use that for 45 days for free. So I think my record shows that I've created and advocated for citizen engagement, for transparency.
I think you know that I have been a strong voice for the citizens. I want to hear from the citizens. I have said from day one when I joined City Council, I asked the question, why are we having meetings in the middle of the day when people are working? I thought all of the meetings should have been moved to evenings. 1 week as county council does, I think you see the president here, at least she was here of county council. They have 1 week where they have committee meetings and discuss issues. Then the following week, they then vote on the issues. That makes a lot of sense to me because it gives an opportunity for citizens to hear what the issues are, to have the information they need, and to engage in the discussion if they want to. I mean, we've had people come down in the middle of the day, taking off work or whatever they were scheduled to do, And then they weren't allowed to give input. I said, that doesn't make any sense. We've told them that we discussed the issues at committee meetings. If they come, we should allow them to participate. Thank you.
I believe in citizens being able to trust their government. And yes, I do think that citizens should be able to speak their mind before we vote. In fact, I've been out there 7 months before the voting is going to happen, listening to you. I've been out visiting every door. I visited at least 1,000 doors in Ward 1. I've spoken to at least 500 different Akronites. I believe in listening to you. I want to hear what you say before we're even in the council meeting. I've been to your door, and I've been to your door, and I've been to your door too. I've been to all of them. So if you want to see something happen, I believe you should be able to tell me, and then I will bring it, and I will listen to you on the floor. Let's change it. Let's listen. I'm listening.
All right, so Councilman Neal said, and I don't know if you ever watch him, but he for years would stand up begging for the thing that was already approved to put the money online. And they blocked it and still have blocked it. They passed the budget with that black box of money, section 56, that's hidden money that the mayor can spend, what did he do, $30 million last year on anything he wants. They don't care about trust. They don't care about you. All they're gonna do is they're gonna stuff that city council with people that are rubber stamps of the mayor, all right? That is all they do. That is what's going on right now, and that's what's been going on for the last 3 decades. You know who the candidates are for the people. If you want change, democracy demands that you stand up and you organize and you get 5 other people to vote on May 2nd. This is the only way this changes. The apathy, and it's not apathy, it's hopelessness. You've got to rise up.
Woo. Okay, look, let's set a few things straight here, okay? There are 3 of us on the stage here today who voted against that budget, and 2 others who I think they were same time voted against giving the mayor's office unbridled discretion over the ARPA money. So let's get a few things clear. Point of personal privilege. All right. As to accessibility and listening, you know, all ears, and you know it. We need more engagement, and it's a 2-way street. And I've talked to so many of you who are here this morning, and I'm so grateful for those conversations. But here's the deal. We've got to keep pushing to have the kind of access in terms of input to the decisions. We have to keep pushing. And yes, Councilman Neal's right. It makes sense to front load the comment time on central issues, including very much budgeting, how we spend money, and what we're planning. Gone are the days of Father knows best. I think we can all agree on that, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm all for the public making comments before they vote on those imperative issues, but I'm unfortunately here to say that it's really not going to make a difference because those 4 or 5 individuals that you're talking about is running unopposed, and they'll be here to set the policies for the next 4 years. So what I'm here to say is I would love for everybody in this audience to mobilize. Think of somebody that can run in all these wards and these council seats and get some people with like-minded ideas that are coming in for a change. Because right now you got those running unopposed. We only have 3 Republicans running. So once they win in May, they pretty much, if they running with somebody against them, once they win in May, they pretty much running unopposed in November. So mobilize, organize, get some individuals to run. So in 4 years, you might not see a difference, but in 10 years, we'll have enough people, Republicans, Democrats, Independents that'll run, hold people accountable. And then I want to stress one more thing if I'm on board. 8-year terms, 2 4-year terms, and then you're done. That way we can get fresh people in here every 4 years.
I served as deputy mayor for the city of Akron for 6 years. It's one of those people that all the stuff falls on. I left in 2021 at the lowest state of self-worth and mental health, personally. I share that because the system doesn't work for anybody. It doesn't matter whether you're a true believer or you come into City Hall working for a mayor thinking like you're gonna make a great deal of change. The system doesn't allow for it the way it's currently constructed. And one clear example of that I've been talking about during this campaign is that we haven't done a comprehensive citywide land use plan since 1987. 1987 was the last time we had block by block meetings to talk to people about what they want for their community. We need to get back to the good old tried and true things of talking to our neighbors and working together for change.
Before I answer my question, I just wanted to say one thing. You know, Akron is one of the best places to live if you have allergies. I just wanted you to know I did my homework before I came here for you guys, okay? And I suffer a peanut allergy. But I truly do love our city, okay? And I definitely believe in engagement and the comments, whether they're on the front end, the middle, or whatever. But this is a one-party system, okay? And so what we're looking at and witnessing is you're getting what you keep voting for. And all it is that one part of the party wants them to know that we're better than or stronger than yours. If it's just ran by one party, but you don't have checks and balances, or you don't have different individuals, this is what we're getting. Because that city council right now, that dynamic is made up of all Democrats, of all. There hasn't been a Republican on your city council in 50 years, nor one as far as a city council at large within 50, city council at large within 40 to 50, okay? I'm sorry, that's perfection. But I'm just saying, the dynamics of city council will not change unless you change, unless we change on how we vote the individuals that you do vote for.
Talking about trust.
I go to city council basically every week, and whether it's Jalen, whether it's issue 10, whether it's White Pond, there's so many other things, we have seen the suppression of the public voice. Whether that is kicking 45 citizens out of city council chambers after the White Pond vote, or blocking citizens from being able to speak at committee meetings. We need trust, but we also need to open up the microphone for citizens to be able to speak. We just passed a $798 million budget, and it says in Charter Section 86D that there should be a public hearing for all annual budgets, and we didn't have a budget hearing this year. How can we trust our officials and our government to be able to have us at the table when we're actively suppressing and violating our own charter? Thank you.
Trust, like any relationship, starts with communication. I'm sure you wouldn't date or marry somebody that you don't talk to. I mean, unless it's somebody in the room that did that. That's real wild. That's wild to me. And I think forums like this can't just happen when it's election time. It needs to happen in your communities on a more consistent basis. And that's how you build trust. Communication, knocking on doors, getting the community sentiments, getting their opinions, and having that also be an avenue to inform your community on what is needed. I am one time.
Many don't know I'm co-founder of the Stop the Violence Akron movement with our president, Rita Davis. I canvassed for the Freedom Block, which we was responsible for 14,000 registered voters, 7,000 signatures, and a 30,000 historical turnout for it. One thing that it taught me was knocking on those doors and talking to hundreds of families and understanding what their situation was. And I think one thing that we need to do as leadership is either once a month, twice a month, we need to get out and knock on those doors. Because a lot of people is not going to make these forums. And we need to understand what our community needs. And we need to, like Byron said, we need to definitely mobilize. Because I wouldn't be here today had I not been a part of democracy and making sure we get things on the ballot that we need. So therefore, we can get the signatures, get it on the ballot, we vote for it, and then we get it. And I think that's one of the most powerful things that I've learned. Thank you.
So this is going to be the last question for the panel before we get to audience questions. So, preservation, oh, I'm sorry, and let us start. I'm trying to see, what direction have I not gone? Let's start with Mr. Lewis. And with Mr. Lewis, we're then gonna come back this direction. This way, yes. So, preservation of natural resources is often seen in opposition to development and economic progress. Do you agree with this view? And how will you address the need to protect Akron's natural resources while also creating housing, thriving neighborhoods, and other necessities for people living in Akron?
I mean, this is the way the city thinks it is, that preservation is the way that is the opposite of economic increase, and that's madness. The reason they're doing this White Pond development thing is because when there was COVID, people were working at home. And they're like, well, we don't want to put business offices there anymore because people don't go to offices. I mean, it's old thinking. They're just behind the times. Everything is behind. Look, are you watching what's happening out west with the water situation there? Our nature is our economy. A smart legislator, a smart person in leadership we would cherish these things. We have more natural fresh water here in the Northeast Ohio area than anywhere in the world. And we don't care. We don't care because we think that people are still working at home.
Sage is absolutely correct. Our natural resources are our economy. It's sad, but it's true that the industry has left Akron, Ohio. And what we have left are the trees on our corners and the parks in our backyard. The national park brings in tens of millions of people every year. What can we provide them? We can provide them a rest stop in Akron. We can build an economy around a national park and metro parks. How do we help the people in our inner cities? Employ them at the national park and the metro parks. Give them more greenery to take care of and bring more people in that way. Natural resources will rebuild Akron when the industry is left. Thank you.
I totally agree that in Akron, I think we have a lot of wonderful natural resources, and we need to do everything we can to preserve them. We've done a wonderful job in protecting our water source and spent a lot of resources on cleaning that, making sure that we have healthy water and the parks. I had the privilege of living next to San Juan Park. Just a wonderful natural resource that I would take people to when they would come to town. And it's one that's been well maintained. And I agree that we should do everything we can to maintain our natural resources.
Can I ask you to repeat the question, please?
Yes, preservation of natural resources is often seen in opposition to development and economic progress. Do you agree with this view? And how will you address the need to protect Akron's natural resources while also creating housing, thriving neighborhoods, and other necessities for people living in Akron?
I understand. I agree that it can be looked at as opposing views, but it doesn't have to be. Looking at our neighborhoods, I brought in a resolution. At one time, because money was coming in, this was when Marshall Fudge was in Congress, we were tearing down about 500 homes a year. And there was a home that was down the street from me that was being torn down. I knew it needed to be torn down, so I walked in because Habitat for Humanity would go in and strip these homes of all things of value. And I talked to them, I said, man, what's going on? They said, well, this house is scheduled to be demoed. And they let me know that 30% of the homes they went into didn't need to be torn down. So folks, 500 homes a year, that means 150 homes would be preserved, saved. So I came in with a proposal after working with the planning department, a Scholar Graduate Neighborhood Revitalization Program, where we would give students with college debt free homes to keep that intellectual capital in the community and to preserve those homes.
One thing I would do is we need work for shelter programs for homeless people and people that may be getting out of, jail or anything of that sort, to refurbish some of the homes that we already have. And as far as preserving some of the wooded areas, people don't understand that oxygen depletion is one of the illnesses that's going on right now that we're not talking about, and it's being misdiagnosed due to COVID and due to RSV. We definitely need to understand oxygen depletion, because right now it's at 21%, which was once at 31%. 19.5% is deadly, and 12% and 15% is the oxygen levels in most major cities. So we definitely need our forces, and because if not, we're in trouble. Thank you.
So we live to Sage's point, in an area where we have the Great Lakes, which holds 21% of the world's fresh water. And then when we look over at the Colorado River that feeds states like Utah, Wyoming, Nevada, Colorado, Arizona, California, that is drying up at an alarming rate, which means other states are going to start depending on us. So when I look at a cool Netflix series called The World's Most Extraordinary Homes, Piers Taylor talks about and shows us homes that are built in areas that keep nature in mind. No, it does not have to be a nature versus development. What we need to do is put mandates where architects are putting community before capital.
So I think we can start by, really thinking about whether we need to keep developing luxury properties on our last remaining green spaces.
The answer
I think, we talk about vacant homes. I also think about all of our vacant buildings and our older infrastructure that I would love to see us utilize. Look at this space. Look at this wonderful space that has been reimagined. This is great, right? We need to do that with our housing assets as well. We have so many things, so many assets here in Akron that have not been realized to their full potential. We need to stop looking outward and we need to start looking inward. Thank you.
We cannot run our city off of an old population and old groups. We have to engage. We have to protect the 40 million gallons that come from the Great Lakes. We have to preserve or be engaged for transportation and preserving these homes. We really have to focus on that affordable housing issue that we have going on. But everybody talks about, real quick, that says affordable housing, but do you really know what it means? It means when the municipal workers can't afford to live in the city from their income. So if you live in Boston and you're a police officer, you really can't afford to live in your own city. So affordable housing is, can the people who work in the city and the municipality really afford to live there? So we do have to come up with some type of innovative ways for people like me, myself, who wants to stay in Third Ward, who wants to stay in a house that was built in 1928, okay, that is part of Perkins Park Estate. We have to come up with some type of set-aside tax abatement programs for those who want to stay here instead of giving tax abatement as the incentive for all the investors.
So I do think Akron is going to grow again in this century, but it's not for the reasons I used to. We're going to have an influx of climate migration, the likes of which we've never seen over the next 100 years. We have an opportunity right now then to figure out how we want to set the standard for a new way of living going into a level of climate uncertainty. And I agree with my fellow candidate Sage, it's water. Our water is the most precious outside of our people, most precious economic asset we have. And right now, the city of Akron owns 18,000 acres of the Cuyahoga River watershed. My first year on council, if elected, I'm going to introduce legislation for a conservation easement program to permanently protect that land. And then we can raise millions of dollars and work together as a community to figure out how to reinvest into our Akron for ways and in ways that prepare for that climate reality. We can do both. We can raise revenue for smart growth and smart development while at the same time protecting our water.
So I echo the sentiments of my colleagues about the Great Lakes and 40 million people that uses the waters. But I wrote down a few things and I want to get them all in a minute so I don't forget nothing. So bear with me. So I want to have a reporting and dumping reward program. As you can see, our city is getting overwhelmed with dump tires and everything is dumping. So give an incentive to the people in the communities to report those so we can get that going, because that's part of a pollution problem. Working with the University of Akron in ways to prevent pollution, come up with a pollution monitoring program through our health, clean food access, increasing our park programs, planting forest gardens, educate our community on increasing health and wellness resources for our city residents, working with our dietitians, nutritionists, and other healthcare providers to increase our health outcomes for our mental health people, coordinate directly with our hospitals and our health and clinics, and just have a healthy advocate program. Thank you.
So these things are non-binary, and really at the heart of all this is that we need to modernize. We are a significant location. We have significant assets. And I'm not on. Sorry. What we're talking about is modernizing. And I've been working on this since I joined City Council. So we're talking about first the Valley Master Plan. I was part of that operation. Some of you were too. We're talking about putting together a cohesive longitudinal effort to pull this together. I was the primary sponsor of the Gateway City Resolution. We are the gateway city to the Cuyahoga Valley National Park, and this means something. It has a monetary value too. We don't see things as they are, we see things as we are. And simply by flipping this narrative just a little bit, we can recognize and work with the reality that these things have value. Noxious weeds ordinance. Just a little over a year ago, it was a misdemeanor to grow native plants in your yard. This is a small thing and a huge thing all at the same time. Go forth and grow milkweed. And this is how we change the world. And there's more. 2 weeks ago, I brought in a resolution that urged the city to join Power Clean Future Ohio. We need to do this.
Okay, thank you. So now, guess what? It's your turn, okay? And I'm excited to see all the questions that has been brought, to me. So we're going to start, and I'll start back with candidate Blake. And I apologize in advance if I cannot read your handwriting. I'm just being honest. So do you support tying property tax abatements for new homes to energy efficient construction that will lower homeowners' utility bills for the life of their home? And how do you encourage residents to take advantage of the rebates and tax credits available for home improvements through the Inflation Reduction Act?
Start with the second part of the question. I would encourage residents to install solar panels, so then that way we can have our energy throughout our community, and then when energy is needed elsewhere, it can go back to the grid. I also am in support of that, to be able to give residents the ability to afford improvements to give us clean energy.
Yes, I think we need to bolster our green contracting and also the green supplies that our contractors use for new building projects and renovations. I was also talking with a neighbor yesterday about our utilities here, and they were telling me about how they had to really push and do a lot of research into getting more renewable energy options for their own home. We need to bolster the green and renewable infrastructure here for basic utilities, and that's something I definitely want to champion and bring about here. Thank you.
I agree with both, everything that these two have said. Anything that's going to support energy conservation, I would definitely support. But we still have to come up with the ways. The biggest thing, and I'm gonna keep saying it over and over, is preserving the historic and the aging homes. We have more aging homes in this city, and we're a landlocked city, meaning we have to almost tear down to build. So anything that is gonna take as far as building credits, as far as energy conservation, that's what I would support.
Yes, I favor reopening the tax abatement program and looking at a whole host of things, including environmental concerns, as well as how to better target the incentive to do the types of things that Cynthia was just talking about. And so, yeah, I would favor that.
I would also favor that. I would also offer that as an incentive to our current University of Akron, Kent State, Cleveland State graduates that will attract those young, open-minded individuals to our great city so that we can grow those young people and help them cultivate the city, and we can get some of them on city council.
So we need to make the plans and permits phase of this kind of work simpler and less expensive. That's the first thing we need to do. It should not be rocket science to figure out how to leverage solar and even wind as a way to power a residential location. It should be so accessible that developers think of it first, because as of January 1st of this year, the Inflation Reduction Act made literally billions of dollars available in low or no interest loans, in grants. It's crazy. They are giving money away. It has never been easier for developers and individual residents to make their homes energy efficient and sustainable for the long term. Thanks.
The White Pond debacle should be evidence enough that we need to reform this tax abatement situation. That is a travesty that they are stealing our money, these developers. They're going to get free schools, free everything. It's just going to go to developers. It's going to be rentals. I went online and I found out that my current electric bill is about $145 a month. If I had solar, it would be $33. We got to do solar. I have a friend over on the East Coast. They get 2 days less sun a year than we do, and she has zero electric bill. We gotta do it. We gotta do solar. We can do that, and this is the community right here that could be really excited about this. We are the city of the future if we can get our act together.
Now, I grew up with Republican parents, so if there's any way that we can reduce taxes, they would be all for that. So I think, and I also think it makes perfect economic sense to reduce the taxes of somebody who's putting solar on their roof. Because if you're costing the city less money in the energy that they have to output, then maybe we shouldn't take as much of your money. That makes sense to me. Also, we had the recent shutdown of that power plant in Cuyahoga Falls has impacted a lot of people across Akron. In my very ward, I've heard from the people, their electric bills have gone up. It's become less affordable for the less fortunate in our ward. And so we need to find practical solutions for that. And if people are having trouble being able to afford putting solar panels on their roof, cut their taxes, get out of their way, let them build a future for themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. I totally agree that reforming the tax abatement policy would be one way to start. You know, everybody doesn't need a 15-year tax abatement. We could reform that and do great work in the inner city, for instance, as well as the ARPA dollars that we received. We could have used those dollars to do some experimentation around green, infrastructure changes in a lot of these homes that we're doing home repairs on. So there's a number of things we could do, and I certainly support doing more greenery in our communities and our homes.
Yes, I agree. One of the things, the Gaines Group helped the city save millions of dollars by informing us how we can use green infrastructure in the CSO project. We need legislative oversight. We have a green stability group on council. Look at council's budget, council's goals. None of our goals align with any of the committees that we have. I'm serious, go online and look. We need legislative oversight, not as a punitive thing, but look at all the intellectual capital in this room, so that we can leverage it to bring about better policy. Look at this, we built brand new schools. How many of our schools have UV charging stations? All of the major auto manufacturers said that they're going to stop building gas cars. We don't have the infrastructure, especially in our poorer neighborhoods, for UV charging stations. We need to collaborate and use intellectual capital that's not just in this room, throughout the city, so we can create better policy.
Quick stats, since 1960 till now, we lost 100,000 people population-wise. Since 25 years, we lost 30,000 people. We used to be in the industry. So I would think we would need to look into a tech, meet nature, green job initiative industry here in Akron, Ohio. And also we need STEM in all our Akron public schools. It's definitely needed. And then also we need programs to also have homes and apartments have programs to where they replace faucets, toilets, if they don't have dishwashers, because a lot of that water is being wasted because they're not modernized. So we need programs in place for that. I definitely agree. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Osby, we'll start with you and work all the way down. So will you commit to abstaining from or voting down contracts like Ladue and White Pond for developers with questionable campaign donation history, either donating to be your own campaigns or those of the mayor's office?
I'm definitely against that. I'm strictly grassroots and community-based. Like I said, I live right there on White Pond, and one reason I live there is because of the forest, and I'm a Pisces, so I'm a water person, so I love water. So I'm definitely against that because I know how valuable trees, trees and water is to sustainability of humans, period. Thank you.
Yes, if you follow me on council, I brought in legislation to limit campaign contributions and for us to even change how money influences policy in our community, so yes.
Yes, I'm opposed to that. I think, as Mr. Neal indicated, I have been one of the ones that's been totally against raising the limits to what you can charge, because I think these seats should be available to anyone, whether you have money or not. And I don't like the games that the boys play downtown, the pay to play. We have a lot of that and too much of that going on. Thanks.
I'm absolutely opposed to any kind of work like that. It messes with our political system. If we're supposed to listen to the people we represent, not the people who have all the money. And often the people we represent have no money. And so we have to listen to them even louder. I am making a commitment right now that I will not be receiving large campaign donations like that from interested parties who have contracts involved in the city council right now. I'm never going to do that. I think that sort of thing is evil, and I see it everywhere. And when we see corruption in our city council and in the mayor's office, I mean, it stops countries across the world, and it'll stop Akron from growing too. So let's put an end to that. Thank you.
We increased campaign donations here in Akron. We increased it. They want big money. That's who runs this city, big money. Do you guys know how to look up what people, why am I yelling? I don't know how else to talk. I don't know how else to talk. I quit smoking and now I yell. All right, so look, that's all there is. I learned how to breathe. Look up where people are getting their campaign donations from. It is completely telling who the money people are.
So he's right, and I think I was the only member of city council who voted against increasing the campaign donation limits last fall. So just FYI. No? We got a couple others? Did you vote against it?
I voted.
You voted
against it
Oh.
every time they voted.
My apologies. So there's three of us. Yeah, right on. So there's three of us we voted against it. But I assure you, no more than three, right? Am I right? So listen, you're right. We're all right about this. Money changes everything. We should be concerned about this. And, Akron actually litigated this some 20 years ago, right? And the bottom line was that, well, we've got this First Amendment right, and you have the right to give $20 to a candidate, and you've got the right to give $200. We're not worried about $200 or $20, are we? We're worried about the really big dollars. We're also worried about the stuff that never shows up on a campaign finance report. That's what we're worried about. Until we fix that as a city, as a state, as a country, we are never going to get anywhere. I hope you'll take that really to heart, and that we'll carry that idea forward. Thanks.
Well, as somebody that's not doing my campaign fundraiser kickoff until next month, I haven't seen anybody. So I don't know nothing about money, where the money is, where it's going, but unfortunately, the 4 or 5 individuals that's gonna be running unopposed are those 4 or 5 individuals that keep those monies, that those big lobbies keep the money flowing to. So if we want any type of change in the city, and I'm just sorry to say that in the next 4 years, those policies are probably still gonna be set. But 4 years from now, 8 years, 15, 20 years, then we can make a difference, and then we can make Akron a better place for our kids.
Yeah, I'm absolutely opposed to pay to play and commit absolutely to voting on a development deal based on its merits and my own value system. But it's beyond just the money. Every single one of those corporations have lobbyists that come to City Hall every day. You probably wouldn't be surprised how many of them attempted to show up on my calendar the 6 years I was there. City of Akron has no local ordinance making that transparent to you. City of Columbus does, City of Cleveland does, others do. That is low-hanging fruit. At the very least, everyone should know, including council members, who's visiting City Hall on behalf of business interests. So at least we know that, when things come before council, we can go and look, oh, this person's visited 17 times in the last year. It's basic transparency.
I'm in the same note with Byron. I don't have any money either yet. So, and again, when we come to having to answer the questions of yes and no's, I like to always have whatever all the information is in front of me. But it seems like it's more weighing yes, I wouldn't want to vote for something or pay to play. But the council still and yet today is ran by a one-party system, and you guys really need to look at that. That has a big effect of the dynamics of the city of Akron. On last week, $13.5 billion was passed at the state legislature for infrastructures of the bridges and the highways. And where do we play a role in that as far as for your organization for infrastructure, for environmentalist things? That's what we need to be focusing on. I don't like to really have or be pigeonholed to say, yes, you're going to say this, or no, you're going to say that, unless I know it doesn't benefit us, though. I mean, do we have all information?
Yes, local corruption is real, and a lot of things don't make it into the public record and don't make it on the books. Our campaign has over 250 donors, 90% of which are Ohioans. That's a big deal for a local race. Thank you. Our average donation is $24, which means that the average Akronite is donating to our campaign. And we have, I think, on the entire ballot, the only ones who have a clean money pledge, no oil, no gas, no pharma, no police union money comes to our campaign. And I just want to end by saying I am all for breaking up the old boys club at City Hall.
When you have pay to play in the city, you do not have representative democracy, you have a plutocracy. And so when the deep pockets are what runs the city, you hear less and less voices of the people. Jude alluded to, the people with no money are the people whose voice we need to hear. Shoot, I'm the people with no money too. And the people with no money need to come together and have a collective voice, because at the end of the day, that's what we have. We have our voice, we have our sentiments, we have our opinions, and those need to be heard.
Thank you. Now, this is going to be my last question because of time, but listen to instruction. Yes or no? I'll say that again. Yes or no? If it goes any more, I'm going to cut you off. Okay? Thank you. Should First Energy, as part of its fraud conviction, be ordered to establish clean energy community gardens with a housing shelter for a homeless family? In parentheses, solar, food, shelter. And let's start with Councilman Amodian, and we're gonna go this way.
Yes.
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 Yes, and more.
Yes.
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 Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
And that will conclude my questions. So if we can give all the candidates a
Tracy, a big round of applause, we greatly appreciate it. Tracy's publications, for those that are impacted with health disparities throughout our community, still works today. So if you would like to sign her pro-choice petition ballot, she will have them in the.
Thank you, then. So, for those who do not know, again, I am the Senior Field Manager for Black Organizing with Planned Parenthood, and we are right now in the process of collecting signatures so that we can change the Ohio Constitution to support abortion access. Okay? I do have volunteers here with those petitions, so if you have not signed, I would love for you to sign. It's important is because we're tired of letting legislation decide for us. Let's not allow the people to decide.
So I just Gina and I wanted to take a moment. So I'm Beth Field with the Big Love Network. This is Gina Burke, who is a powerhouse of sustainability all in her own throughout our area, who I'm lucky to have as the head of my board. I would like to point out that every single one of these candidates said yes to holding First Energy accountable within our own community around the fraud that was already. I think that's incredibly critical. Every single one of these candidates have said that the 15-year tax abatement needs reformed. Okay, every single one of these candidates said we have to reimagine how we deal with our health disparities and our food access issues.
Yes.
Okay, now what you're not hearing is those that are going unopposed, the incumbents that didn't show up today.
Mm-hmm.
Say it again.
Right?
Right?
Say it.
So we are here to build a better Akron. This is Akron's first environmental candidate for platform. Thank you guys for being brave enough to let us ask you the hard questions. And thank you for showing up. We ask that you continue to show up, and we ask that you let us show up and reinforce the work that you have dedicated today to say that you will be doing and that many of you have already been doing throughout our community. There are experts in the room. There are concerned citizens that have personal stories that can lead and help you move policy as you are in city council. Please use us. Do not let the Good Old Boys Club bully about who's gonna speak at the subcommittee meetings, okay? It used to be that you could have citizens and experts come and speak about why you're trying to pass something, but since White Pond, they stopped letting us do that. Okay? It takes our whole community. So please reach out to those in this room, some of those that necessarily didn't get to make it into this room. But we are constantly reaching out to you guys. We would love for you to reach out to us as well. We are a community here, even folks that are running against each other. I hope that you know after May 2nd and after November that you have an advocate that also agreed to a lot of the same policy agreements as you did, that you're sitting in your seat. And that's a strong advocate in your board that you should be pulling on. This us versus them, this people versus the environment, this social justice versus environmental justice has to stop, okay? We are all in this together, and we're not going to survive the next 4 years of climate change if we don't band together, okay? I'm going to hand it to Gina, who been doing this work for a lot longer than I have. Thank you.
Candidates, when you leave, you'll exit the way you enter, so make it a lot easier. And when you do that, I'm going to invite you to go around the building and go over to that section over there, and where it says preservethevalley.com, and just read through the material. Just take a look at it. I am on the board of the United States Green Building Council for Northeast Ohio. I have been on that for a very long time. I was part of the original Green Building Coalition that formed in the late 90s. And we know how to build a sustainable future. We are doing it, okay? It takes protocols. We have an amazing protocol called Sustainability for Cities and Communities. We directly address the UN Sustainability Climate Goals, equity goals, everything. We have a way to do it. I'm very much involved in Cleveland. They have a 2030 district where they are literally going to achieve zero emissions by 2050, 50% by 2030. So we build these buildings, we build our environment in a way to achieve our goals, not just talk about it. So take your time and enjoy and learn how we can go forward. So thank you very much. Love the consensus. Thank you.
For those that are attending, we are taking about an hour and a half break before the mayoral forum. Please visit a local restaurant, get yourself some lunch. If you want to stay and move tables around, we will have pizza coming from Mustard Seed. Also, feel free to look at the information